15 to order. Are we in compliance with the open meeting law?
Yes, we are.
This meeting has been posted in various locations throughout the city. Going to the first bill under consideration, agenda item number 3, bill number 200764, provides that Planning Commission action on most special use permits is final, unless appealed or requested for review by a member of the City Council, and modifies certain provisions regarding related hearings and appeals so as to conform to state law. It's sponsored by Councilman Gary Reese.
Yes, committee. As you'll remember, this bill was asked to be stricken in front of the council several meetings ago,
Yes.
and I asked that it be preserved so that I could use it as a vehicle to make some technical corrections that I thought we needed to do in our code. And in the meantime, I've determined that I'm not going to be able to do that gracefully, and so I would ask that it be stricken today, and then I will ask that it be stricken tomorrow from council meeting, and we'll just start over.
All right, are there any comments from the audience pertaining to that item on the agenda? And do we have a motion?
Motion to strike?
Yes.
My motion is to strike.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion is approved. Going to the next agenda item number 4, bill number 200775, ordinance creating special improvement district number 1510, Cliff Shadows Parkway, I-215 to Low Mountain Road, sponsored by Step Department.
Yes, thank you. Mike Thompson, Department of Public Works. This creates Improvement District 1510 and provides funding to construct the offsites adjacent to 3 City of Las Vegas parcels. The item's in order, and I can answer any questions and staff would recommend.
Is there anybody within the audience who wishes to speak on this item? We have a motion, Councilman Wilson.
For passage? The motion is for passage.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Moving to the next agenda item, 200776, annexation number ANX 19110, property location on the southwest corner of Grand Teton Drive and Tenaya Way, petition by Spinnaker Homes 9 LLC, acreage 40.19 acres, zoned RA, county zoning U, ROI, city equivalent, sponsored by Councilman Stephen Ross.
Yes, committee members, this is a routine owner petition, single parcel annexation. Everything is in order. We do suggest an amendment of the bill itself indicated that there was county zoning of RA with a resolution of intent to RE, and that the city equivalent was undeveloped desert rural, I believe was what DR stands for, with the resolution of intent to RE. And upon further research, it was determined that the county approved a PUD, or a planned unit development zoning. So we would amend the bill to indicate that in the county zoning and suggest for the city equivalent that it be an ROI to RPD2, which is our equivalent. With that amendment, we recommend approval.
RPD what?
2.
Thank you.
I got it.
Are there any comments, anything to discuss from the audience? I move for a motion.
My motion is for approval,
As amended.
as amended.
Thank you.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Moving on to agenda item number 6, bill number 2007-77, implement section 4.040 of the city charter relative to the appointment of certain hearing commissioners, sponsored by Councilman Steve Wilson.
Yes, committee members, this, as you'll remember,
I apologize.
at this last legislative session, the city asked for several amendments to its charter. Included in the city's bill was a request that the city council be able to appoint hearing commissioners to hear certain traffic-related matters. That was adopted as part of our charter bill. This is an ordinance that implements that to the extent of setting forth the framework about how the commissioners will be established. It doesn't do anything about funding, which you'll see at a different time. It doesn't do anything about who will be selected, but it puts into ordinance form the framework for implementing that charter provision. Mr. Carmody from the court is here if you have any questions or if I've missed anything.
May I?
Yes, I have no question.
Okay. Mr. Carmody, I thought that during our CMO briefing today that there were going to be 3 items on tomorrow's agenda, 2 of which do supply or do provide for the funding of this position.
Yes, there are here.
Okay.
Yes, there are two items, one for the city attorney's office and one for
Right.
the court,
Okay.
plus the bill.
And you feel comfortable that once this traffic commissioner is up and running, that it should generate enough additional revenue, more than we are generating now from the traffic matters that come before our current judges, to basically, if I can use this term, self-fund itself?
Yes, sir, we do. The analysis that we have done, we've looked at 2 different time frames. Our analysis suggests that that the funding received from additional fines and fees would offset the costs, and we would have, to the general fund, about $360,000 additional above the cost.
Is that on an annual
It's
basis?
an annual, and that's very conservative estimate.
Now, I know that we're just contemplating the addition of 1 traffic commissioner, but if that's the case, why don't we have 10 of them?
I'm not,
Because if we had 10 of them, we could go 10 times 360, and there's
no, I don't,
$4 million.
I don't think it works that way. What we're looking at is the number of cases that can come to a traffic commissioner that are currently in the criminal courts that could be addressed. And I think we believe 1 will be sufficient. We may come back and say 2, only if your logic would prevail.
Okay, I think this is a great thing. I think this is in line with having specialty courts, and I think that as our city and valley gets bigger and bigger, we need to move more in this direction. So that's why I sponsored this bill. I think it's a good thing. I'm looking forward to having our first traffic commissioner. So I'm ready to move forward.
Do we have any comments from the audience? Any additions? Thank you so much. And my motion,
For approval?
I second, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion is approved, and we may move to the next item.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is Bill number 2007-78. It clarifies the process for the non-renewal of business licenses. It's also sponsored by Councilman Steve Wilson.
Yes, committee members, this bill was in response to a desire to have more detail in our licensing code about the process by which the Business Services Division of Finance and Business Services non-renews business licenses. In the original bill, we put in there that in order to decline renewal of a license, the director must obtain written approval of the city attorney's office and mail or deliver to the licensee at least 30 days before the licensing expires, written notice of the intent to do that non-renewal with a statement of the reasons. We recommend approval, although we have met with Jim DeFiore of the licensing division and found some changes ought to be made. Those would be found on pages 3 and 4 of the, actually the original bill would just be page 4. The existing B talked about mailing or delivering at least 30 days this notice, and the new language would be at least 21 days before the licensing period expires. And then a further sentence at the end that says, if the city attorney's office doesn't respond within 3 business days to that request for a sign-off, that non-response will be deemed approval so that the licensing can go ahead. And with that change, we recommend approval of the First Amendment.
Any comments from the audience? Motion?
Thank you. Obviously, I think the intent is to have the business license director work hand in hand with the city attorney's office, because what you're talking about is, this is my phraseology, almost the investigative agent and the prosecutorial agent that need to work together. Because I think that there's been a lack of that, or there's room for improvement in that area. I think that was part of the impetus for this bill. And think it's a good bill. That's why I'm sponsoring it. So my motion is for approval.
Second, all in
As
favor?
amended.
As amended.
Thank you.
As amended. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We move on.
Are we
to-
done? That's it?
Not quite. Moving on to item number 8, Bill number 2007-79 allows short-term vacation rentals in certain residential districts as a conditional use, sponsored by Councilman Steve Wilson.
In November of last year, an ordinance was passed that prohibited the short-term rental of one's residence for less than 30 days. Prior to that law being passed, there were laws on the books that dealt with acquiring licenses if you were to treat something as a short-term rental, paying a room tax for it. All of that became a bit irrelevant when this ordinance passed and eliminated that possibility. At the time of that discussion, it was brought to our attention by individuals in the University of Maryland who are here today that there were types of rentals the city might not want to prohibit or might want to regulate, but not completely prohibit, or might want to permit under limited conditions. And so I was directed by one of the council members who coordinated the ordinance to meet with that group of individuals. That resulted in the ordinance that's before you today, which carves out a permit process for short-term vacation rentals. It would allow you to go to the city to get a once-a-year permit that would allow residents to use for short-term rentals with conditions that are prescribed in the permit process, and conditions that can be enhanced by staff on an ad hoc basis depending on the location of the house. The permit could also be revoked in a violation of this or this meeting. Since that discussion, it's come to my attention that there may be some appetite to not only refine that language, but to work a compromise that would make a permit or an exception to the prohibition less relevant. To work on that potential compromise, it's been suggested that rather than pass today's bill in its current form, that it be amended to suspend enforcement of the ordinance that passed on November 7th. Mr. Christine will read the ordinance number and the bill number into the record. Once that ordinance is suspended, if that is the recommendation, then it would be as if it were never adopted for a period of time not to exceed March 5th of this year. We would also need direction from you, that is, the recommending committee and council tomorrow, to negotiate actively a bill that both satisfies the needs of Councilman Parkani, which is to prohibit abusive short-term vacation rentals in residential neighborhoods, and to satisfy the goals of the industry, which are to permit them under the most reasonable of circumstances. I think that can be done. I think we're going to need some time to do it so that everybody knows in order for that to occur, we will need to have something in writing to the clerk's office by the 13th of February so that it's on the agenda for February 20th. That would be when that type of bill would be adopted. It would be fast-tracked. It would not be sent to planning commission due to the exigency of the circumstance, and it would come before council on March 5th. If all of that happened, then at that same meeting, the original ordinance would be permanently repealed, and this new compromise ordinance would be eligible for adoption, and if adopted, that would land us. If one of those things did not occur, a compromise couldn't be reached by the February deadline that I indicated, or there wasn't support for that compromise at council level, then the original ordinance that was adopted back in November would come back into enforcement on March 5th, and a new ordinance, could even be this exact same ordinance that's before you today, would have to be reintroduced in order to allow a permit process as an exception to that ordinance. That's what's before you today, and if there's any appetite to do a First Amendment to continue this, that would be a motion moving forward.
If I could just say, basically, this first ordinance came about because I think most of you were at the meeting today where I explained I've been working for 2.5 years. In fact, our first memo, I think, was August 2005 that we could find in our files. And because we'd worked on it so long, when Councilman Wilson had suggested obeying it at that meeting, I did not go for the abeyance. It was not until near that time that we became aware of the industry that is so large as short-term rentals. and how it is handled, and also how it could be monitored. And so, in the meantime, I've learned a lot more about that. I understand the legitimacy in some short-term rentals. My concern is the enforcement of those who were not legitimate, which I've mentioned to you. And I thought if we had some additional time, which I also had mentioned to you, that perhaps we could bring those who are involved more. Jim DiCiore was one. Maybe there's some way we could self-fund a half-time person even who could help in this type of thing. I don't know, but I would really like to look into it. My concern is mostly the following through on this and enforcing it for those who are doing it illegitimately. And so I had mentioned that to you before, and at the time you had mentioned to me the problems with losing money. So remember I said to you I would go check with council about that, and then we met with Councilman Wolfson, and this is the result.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I think you're fairly accurate in what you said. First of all, I want to thank you folks for participating in this process. I think this is government at its best, because government is not perfect. And sometimes government takes a little longer than we'd like to come to the right result. I will tell you that Councilwoman Tarkanian and myself have probably thought of nothing else for the last 24 hours. She and I have spoken 3 or 4 times, met 2 or 3 times, and it hasn't been easy. But we're doing this for all of us. We're doing it for you folks. We're doing it for a lot of other people that aren't present in the room today. I don't really like the words compromise and negotiate, because I don't look at it as a compromise. I look at it, and those are your words, and I understand that, Brad. You're a lawyer, and that's why. And I'm a lawyer, and that's why I understand you. But I think what we're doing is we're moving in a continuing direction towards a final law that will safeguard what we all want to safeguard, which is the inappropriate conduct, the so-called rave parties or other types of behavior that nobody wants in their neighborhoods except the lawbreakers, but at the same time allowing for positive behavior. So when you talk compromise and negotiate, I don't look at it that way. I look at it as refinement and moving in the direction of where we need to get to have the right law. And that's what we're doing. It was my call, if you will, to agree to perhaps recommend to the council tomorrow to do this procedure where we're going to suspend the old bill with the idea of fast-tracking a new bill that I expect that's going to incorporate much of what's in the proposed bill today with some refinements. There's a particular constituent out there that I've known for 25 years, an intelligent man that's got some good suggestions. And I think that it will accomplish what we want to accomplish, which is, once again, to prohibit the negative and allow for the positive. And one final thing, and that is that Lois and I, Councilwoman Tarkanian and I, were really not aware that Mr. DiFiore's division, the Business Services Division, you're there, right, Jim?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You were behind this gentleman who's not paying much attention right now, so there you go. And Councilwoman Tarkanian and I were really not aware until just the last 24 hours that you had really not much involvement. And I think, Brad, you were operating in good faith. I know you were, because you met with these fine folks a lot of times, not to mention the phone calls and the emails and all that. But I think when we're talking about creating a new scheme, a new plan to, number one, prohibit the bad and allow for the good, and we're creating a new bureaucracy, if you will, more work for your division. We need to make sure that you're in the loop and that your input is received, because it's so important. You know, we can pass a law, but if we don't have the enforcement part of it in the discussion, then we're not achieving what we need to achieve. So I asked, or we decided to recommend to the full council tomorrow the suspension of the old law and fast-tracking a process where, and the reason we picked March 5th is because that's the first meeting in March. That's the first council meeting in March. I wanted to do it in 30 days. That just isn't enough time. So we're going to do it in about 50 days, if you will. And Brad, I'm directing you to start meeting tonight. No, I'm just kidding. You know what I mean. I want you to move without hesitation to meet with these folks. Councilwoman Tarkanian, you know how I feel. You want some people to come to the table? Have them call Mr. Jervik, because Mr. Jervik is the city attorney. You know, he's not dishing this off to one of his assistants. He's the guy. And he's been in it to date, and he'll continue to be in it. So, Councilwoman, as I told you before, I invite you to direct anybody you want to make contact with Mr. Jervik, because Councilwoman and I have had some pretty frank discussions about where we're at, and she's convinced me that she's for the same thing I am. She's for the prohibition of bad and the permission and the authorization of good. So I think we can accomplish this. So that's why we're doing what we're doing. And I wanted to give that long-winded speech so you'd understand why we're doing what we're doing. So do we want to invite public comment?
Oh, yes.
Frankly, my recommendation would be to not speak on the merits, because we don't want to hear from you, if you know what I mean. Because we're doing what we're doing, I'd ask you to reserve your comments as far as the substance of the bill till another time.
Well, as sort of the group leader, I want to put my input out there. I'm Cheryl Tarantino.
Could you come up and get on the
You have to
record?
give your name and address.
Oh.
Yes,
Yes.
please.
Okay, my name is Cheryl Tarantino, Tarantino. No relation to Quentin, which I get about 5 times a day. Address is 367 Ravensmere. That's Rivensmere Drive, Las Vegas 89123. Is that what I need to do?
Yes.
Okay. A couple of things. I did, not meaning to correct you, but, we did meet before the 11/7 meeting, Councilwoman Tarkanian and I came then, and I wasn't so great in numbers. It was just myself. I'm a real estate broker and a property manager here, and we've been doing furnished rentals, fully appointed in furnished rentals for 16 years. And dabbled in a little bit of less than 30-day, probably 10% of the business, but, there's certainly opportunity for more. And so I had heard about it on the news, actually, that this was coming down. And so I made an immediate effort. I met with Councilwoman Tarkanian and her assistant and brought an assistant with me, and I was really steamrolled. I felt like I was really steamrolled at that meeting. And I realized you were very passionate about what you had to bring to the table, as was I. I have a 16-year investment in this, where I came up from the ground from no place. And this was my life. This was as a single mom, the way I raised my kids and put my daughter through college. And this was my livelihood you were tankering with. And so it was very important to me, and I put together a PowerPoint presentation, which I fielded out. I was up at 2 in the morning and pounded out to educate the council and to the fact of that this was a legitimate industry, of which I'm probably one of the larger members. And but there were several of us here, and there were lots of homeowners that rented their homes on the internet and so forth. And we were not evil, and this was not a bad thing, and there was an ethical industry there. And I tried my darndest to get that 11/7 of 07 bill obeyed long enough so we could have these discussions and have this reason come to light and the legitimacy of our business come to light. So I was pretty devastated and felt really squashed and steamrolled. And you know, I'm here in this town because it's an entrepreneurial mecca, and I tell that to all my clients. And I'm proud of Las Vegas, and I'm proud to be a part of it and the system that I see here. And I, as an entrepreneur, came up with an idea, and I created it, and I went forward, and I created this business. And other folks did, you know, along the same lines, although we're all a little bit different. And just to be slapped down without an opportunity to really input or talk was very devastating for us. It tarnished our industry in the news. We lost several $1 million in business was lost by one of our group members here, by the movie industry that helps house the movie industry. So it did have an impact, and I have to say I was just so devastated by that. So I got...
Excuse me, ladies. Go ahead.
So I became, you know, one thing I learned in my 16 years here is, you know, to be relentless. I'm a survivor. I had to be relentless. So I decided, you know, this is my livelihood. I'm not going to stop. We spoke through my assistant, mostly Lee Jones, spoke with Councilman Wilson, who at the last minute said, you know, you do have a point. I was ill. I wasn't able to be at that meeting, so my PowerPoint represented me. But you read it, and you said, okay, well, there's some valid points here. We want to stop, and we want to wait. So I have to just, I'm saying this as a prelude to, I'm fine with compromise, and I'm fine with reason. And the suspension of the first bill certainly helps to take away the tarnish that's on our industry right now. And I would just say my only problem with this is that I've sort of learned not to trust here because of the first incident, and I'm concerned about, can I trust this to go forward? Can I trust that on, you know, in March it doesn't just go away and there hasn't been all this craziness that, you know, all these neighbors come in and so forth, and nothing happens, and so the 11-7 ordinance goes back in. If anything was going to go back in, I'd rather see it be Councilman Wolfson's ordinance go back in, because we met with Brad Jerbick on this when he first proposed it, and he said, what can you do? What can we do to help your industry? What can you do to help us? We thought it was a good act in compromise. We didn't meet with anybody else's office because we didn't know we had to. We had no knowledge. It's not our expertise. But we came to Brad Jerbick, and he sat down with us, and he took our thoughts, and he put together with Councilman Wilson this bill. And in my opinion, which I feel is fairly an educated opinion, the first bill, the 11-7 bill, really didn't have any teeth, and it didn't really put out of business somebody who was going to rent their home to, trying to find this paper, to, here it is, to 89 people for 1 week, you know, and I wanted to put these people out of business too because they tarnished my image as well. So we tried to do the right thing here. And I feel like I've been under attack, and our industry's been under attack. And this is personal to me. I know it's personal to you, Councilwoman, you know, and it's personal, but it's personal to me too, because I've got 16 years of blood, sweat, and tears into this industry. And we just wanted to know that we had a fair and reasonable voice. And I think Councilman Wilson's ordinance right now has a lot more teeth than the 11-7. And if we go forward tomorrow and we ditch that as well and we suspend both of them, then we have nothing. And there's no way to act on these people that are of your such concern and you've worked 2.5 years on. There's nothing to do, you know. So I'm just wondering, kind of curious why this is done the day before, because we've been working on it for many months. But
well, let me tell you why. Let me answer your question. I did partially before, and let me do it again. Well, sometimes that's the way government works at the 11th hour. And when I told you just a few minutes ago that it wasn't until 1 o'clock this afternoon that I was unaware that Jim DiFiore was unaware of his role, I told you the truth. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure you understand what I'm talking about. Mr. DiFiore is the gentleman on your far right in the second row who is our business license director. So he's going to be the #1 guy, along with Mark Vincent, to enforce this. And he had some genuine questions about, how am I going to do this, and what am I going to do, da-da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, with all due respect to you, Brad, I just kind of figured he was in the loop. And he wasn't. So I apologize for that 11th hour thing. It kind of was an 11th hour thing to me, too. But I will tell you, I'm not going to let you down. Now, I'm only one vote. It takes 4 votes to pass a law in the city of Las Vegas. But when I told you that I've had discussions with my colleague here, my good friend Lois Tarkanian, about this, and she's given me what I call very comforting assurances that we're on the same page. We may not agree on everything, but our goal is the same as it relates to this bill. I'll tell you that I'm confident that, subject to a tsunami in Las Vegas, that on March 5th, you're going to have a good bill. We're going to have a good bill, which, and I'll use this word again, I think we have the framework right now in this bill.
Yes.
We just need to tweak it. And I don't want to force a vote on something that isn't as good as it can be. So I'm trying to give you the confidence that
Okay.
we're going to be back. You know, we could have done one of these where we just obey it and it goes off into space, or let's suspend the old bill subject to bringing back a new one. And I'm the one, I said, no, I want a date certain.
Right.
And originally I said 30 days, but he needs a little bit more time. And, you know, this activity has been going on for a long time, so another 60 days, we can live with it. So I'm just trying to give you the assurance that it's going to be done.
Well, and I appreciate that, and I really appreciate you both. And like we said in the meeting with Councilwoman Tarkanian, you know, she did bring this up. We never knew about these laws in the first place. Obviously, I wouldn't be doing illegal activity for 16 years. There's a lot of things on the books that are antiquated and that aren't well known out there, and that oppose one another between the city, county, state, etc. So, you know, it sounds as if, you know, we have your word on the fact that we're going forward with good intentions, willingness to work with the industry, myself and the others. You know, then I'm fine, and I appreciate the fact that you have come to an agreement. We're certainly willing to go with the compromise, and which I think has even been made better by the fact that you've put a timeline on it. And you know, I just have to say you're restoring my faith in the city government, you know, and I appreciate that.
Wait till March 5th. That's where we're headed.
I would like to add here, basically, you felt let down at the beginning part. But you know, you weren't let down by a Democratic government. You came back, you gave information, you were able to go to Councilman Wolfson, you know, who perhaps wasn't as jaded as I had become with all the problems we had. So he listened there, and then he moved forward. And that's what democracy is about. Democracy is also about, you know, my talking with him and saying, the framework is absolutely excellent. I'm just very concerned about how we can enforce this more. And then I talked with Jim Fiore, I think it was last night, less than 24 hours ago, and found out he didn't know when I was asking him, how are we going to do this to see, you know, the right way. And then our meeting together in recommending that we add these things and work together, I think is democracy. And I think it's a way to show that you do make a difference, that every single individual makes a difference. And nobody ever said it was easy. All of us have fought those battles. It's not easy, but you stick to it, and I always respect people who do stand up for what they believe in. So I'm sorry you felt that way at the beginning, but I do think you should now feel very good.
I feel very good.
Because it will be a stronger bill. It isn't,
I
as
feel
I said,
very
so much a compromise. It's a stronger bill. And you know, when I was called early on, when Councilman Wolfson decided to do another ordinance, and a reporter asked me about it, I said, this is not contention. It's not contentious.
Right.
What it is our trying to work together to do what's the best, and I think that's what we're trying to do.
And I read that, and I had hope, you know, because that article came out, and I was interviewed as well, and I think it was a fair article written by this fella. And I told, in my part of the article was, I said, you know, I don't think it's anybody's intention on the city council to ramrod us or anything. It's, you know, but we need to have a chance to speak our minds. And so I really appreciate you, Councilman Wolfson, for standing up and giving us faith again that, you know, that somebody was willing to at least listen to our industry at that time. And now that we've had a chance to expose you more to what we do, I think we've lived here the last 2 days. The mayor knows us.
The mayor does know. One thing is the ordinance did got you into view, which you weren't before.
Right.
So that was a positive out of that first ordinance that was passed.
Okay.
And I think we're going to work really hard together, and I think we'll come up with something. But understand that your viewpoint of the situation is different from those who have had some of these bad experiences.
Sure.
So that's why you may feel it all one way and someone another, and we just blend it together.
Just so that, to Councilman Wilson, because you're one of the people that we haven't met with and the first time we've actually met in person, is that we've talked about, one of our members here, Chris Hunt, came up with an idea that I thought was excellent of having a number, we could create an 800 number, and it have on your council site that, people with this kind of situation with the parties could call. And then it could be checked on the permit to see if the person was permitted, and it could go accordingly. And we're willing, as an industry, because we have a plan now to organize, and become an association with an emblem, much like the BBB, to give credibility to people doing it ethically and accountably. And, perhaps we can work with you on that person to help and assist. And when we see instances like this, myself as a real estate broker, when I see this, I call it to somebody's attention, because I find it abhorrent myself.
But you see, this has been the problem. It has been called to almost everybody's attention. Metro, code enforcement, wasn't called to your attention.
No.
Nobody really knew about the group.
Right.
And you haven't formally formed. But it has been called to attention, and that's why I have this great concern about enforcement. That's why, Metro has gone out, code enforcement has gone out. By the time Metro can get there sometime, everything's gone. But anyway, we'll work on that.
Okay, as long I just like to still be included, I guess is what I'm saying. We would like to have a voice as we go forward. And,
It's very easy. Just stay in touch with Mr. Jervik. He'll
Okay.
give you the timelines on everything, but that's
Okay.
the time. You've heard the timeline that we're proposing right now.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I do think you should be invited to the meetings. Because I had people who were concerned they weren't invited to the meetings. It was only one group, the property managers. I think it should be always certain that you should be involved, right?
Well, absolutely, but let's be real here. I announced my intentions back on November 7th, or whatever the date was, when the ordinance went into effect, that I was moving forward with an amendment, and that anybody who was listening, and including the people that are voicing opinions otherwise, could participate in the process. So the word has been out for a long time about participation, and we're going to continue to invite people to participate.
And just one note on that is, when we were speaking with Councilman Brown yesterday, or Councilman Barlow, he defined after listening to us, we actually are three groups of people here. I'm a broker and property manager. I'm also an owner of properties. I own 3 that I've personally, my family has put blood, sweat, and tears and money into. Other people here are owners. Other people here are investors from out of state. So we do represent the broad, aspect. We're not just coming in with, this is just our realtor's point of view, okay? Which, by the way, the realtors, the GLVAR has nothing to do with us, because they just, they disown.
But they did.
They
have
disown
some-
property management.
They did have
basically.
some suggestions. I don't know if you did speak with Kip Cooper, I guess, and I had spoken with him.
One time ago.
But what we could do is bring him in on it too, because realtors themselves have some suggestions. So it would be good to, I think, bring him in also.
That's fine.
Well, what might be a good idea is, Brad, you've heard the names of some groups like KIP from the LVR and
GLVR.
others. Send them a letter. Just send them a letter saying, this is an ordinance that's being worked on right now. You're invited to participate in the discussion.
And hello, you do have an industry out there, but you're not aware of it, because these certain realtors and everything have been doing this for all these years. They didn't know who we were, evidently.
Out for everybody in the room today. I'm out of town on Friday, Monday, and Tuesday next week at a conference. And what I'd like to do is set up a meeting on Thursday before going to get this ball pushed, and so we get some momentum here for when we get back and finish it off. If anybody, I have all of your names and addresses, so you'll be getting that email from me and from my secretary. If you have the names of additional people who you think should be invited, respond to that email with their names and their phone numbers, and we'll have them as well. We'll also bring along individuals from Councilman Martinez and Councilman Wilson's office. There'll be also representatives from neighborhoods who had to put up party houses and things like that. So we'll just all get together one day, and if there's anybody that's left out, we'll just try and add to it as much as we can. meet the best law we can.
Okay.
We'll also have Jim from business licensing or a member of your staff who Jim wants to assign, and we'll get that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, are we
Appreciate
ready?
your time, and I think is everybody okay with the outcome? So I'm speaking for you, but I think I can. We spent a lot of time together.
Will tomorrow then to basically...
Tomorrow will
suspend?
be the formal vote. It'll be my motion probably to introduce an ordinance which suspends the November 7th ordinance until March 5th, which is our first council meeting in March, with the understanding that there's going to be a strong effort to come back with a new ordinance. Is it a new ordinance or is it an amended ordinance?
So we'll bring it the whole new ordinance.
A whole new ordinance.
Whole new one.
Yeah, but, we call it a whole new, but I'm pretty confident it's going to contain much of what's in the current ordinance, which is being proposed today, with some tweaking. So yes, that's what's going to happen tomorrow. You folks are certainly welcome to come tomorrow, but, I can tell you that that's what's going to happen, and I believe the council will vote in favor of that.
So it won't come up, there won't be an opportunity to speak or anything like that then tomorrow? Is that,
Well,
am I
Brad,
assuming that?
technically, is there a?
Technically, it's up to the council if you insist on it. I think the council also is right that tomorrow, if this is amended today, then the suggestion will be to have a due pass motion for an amended version of the current ordinance that would suspend enforcement of the ordinance that was adopted on November 7th. If that passes here today, it's up to the council tomorrow, then personally, I think the effort's better spent in our meeting than at the council meeting talking about that.
You know what, but I invite you to come tomorrow. I enjoyed your
Right.
comments today. I invite all of you to come down tomorrow. It's an,
Everyone, I'll be there.
well, good, and
I
get,
just sit there and listen, it's red, and I walk out.
okay, and get up and tell us your thoughts.
Okay.
Because remember, there's only 2 of us in this room right now. We've
Yeah.
got 5 other colleagues.
That's right.
The
And,
only
You need to identify yourself, ma'am.
Oh.
If you're going to talk, you
by
need to
myself. I'm sorry.
identify yourself.
Hit it. I'm small, so I'm used to hollering over the crowd. Michelle Pombo, Southwest Vacation Rentals, 2920 South Rainbow Boulevard, Suite 140, Las Vegas, Nevada, 89146. When we met with Councilman Barlow, he said something that kind of defined what we've all thought. November 7th painted with a broad paintbrush, painted us all the same. And I think as a point of education, the most important thing that can come out of this is that we've got a V and a P. There are vacation rentals, there are party houses. The distinction is vast. Those party houses are hurting all of us.
I don't even like using the term vacation, because I think, Brad, today you've used the term vacation a couple times, because it's real easy. I call it short-term rentals.
Short-term rentals. We say vacation rentals because it is an internationally, nationally recognized moniker of sorts. If you want to go somewhere, you're going to get online, vacation rental, bink, and you're going to find it anywhere in the world. So it's just a recognized terminology. A lot of us have changed from the vacation rental name to the short-term rentals. But the party houses, I don't know how to stop them. I don't know what kind of bill or what kind of ordinance is going to stop them other than trying to enforce this permit process. Obviously, an owner who just wants to have parties is not going to come down and get a permit.
But then if we do this right, they should be able to operate.
Then they shouldn't be able
And
to.
that's what we're going to tighten up, I think.
Okay.
And if they do
I'm
get a
a little,
permit-
I think I'm more concerned, and I had mentioned this to Mr. Jervik, about the SUP. I mean, we're not going to be able to put sprinkler systems in these houses and all these other things that,
I don't think anybody's expecting that kind of thing.
well,
No.
the one lady at the end of the table touched on it. Yeah, that the health
No,
department's
no.
going to have to go through, and that just got me a
Mr.
little
DiFiore,
concerned
is
this
that something we
afternoon.
need to be concerned about, is
Well,
a requirement for,
there is a state law that prescribes any food establishment that's licensed in any jurisdiction, county or city, must obtain a health permit if they serve, if they prepare food in
establishment? Is this going to qualify as an establishment?
That's not like a family cooking breakfast in a kitchen in a house.
Well, and I think that's where we're going to have to, in our meetings, define what an establishment is, what this business permit is going to be determined to be, whether it's going to be a permit for a food-type party or a food-type event, and I use those terms loosely, because there may be a health permit requirement.
Okay, well, that's what we need to do. I mean,
Okay.
And that's what I did mention health department because Mr. DiFiore had mentioned something like that to me. I wasn't thinking of Springfield.
Well, I think it's the mindset of the bed and breakfast, Councilwoman, and the bed and breakfast you have, say myself and my husband are cooking meals for people that are staying in our rooms. We're cooking food for someone else. It's becomes a public venue then. Whereas our types of rentals, it's like
No, I
come into
understand.
home. Yeah,
Well,
And the only thing was to have the information come out so that we do it the right way, that's all.
right. Okay.
And I think with some of the events, when they have an event, and they come to you and get an event permit, that probably is part of that process.
That would be.
And that's understandable if you're bringing in catered food or cooking in there and feeding the public at an event.
well, I mean, under the proposed ordinance that we're talking about, they'd have to come in and get a permit to do that, and it might get denied. Because if somebody wants to come in and have an event and a wedding for 250 people in a residential neighborhood, I think the intent of this council is going to say no.
No.
Unless you get your 30 neighbors on board and they say it's okay. And if you can convince this gentleman over here on the far right that it's okay, then maybe he will give the permit. But I think the intent is clear, is that we don't want to have large parties in neighborhoods.
Right.
Now, I live in the same neighborhood 12 years now. If I have a party, I don't think anybody's going to complain. I kind of have a right to have a party. I lived there 12 years. But the absentee owner doesn't have that right. So I think we're all on the same page on that kind of thing.
I do believe we're on the same page in that thing. And again, my emphasis is just that we can enforce it the right way so it doesn't continue. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're
Okay,
very
thank
welcome.
you.
And again, I greatly respect how you united and how you worked together to bring the information forward. I
Thank
really
you for
do.
spending your time.
Uh, Do we have, excuse me.
Bonnie McDaniel, 6537 Casada Way, 89107. I've been in my house for 40 years. I think I deserve to have a party if I want one. Plain and simple. And
But
if
that's
I-
different. You're not renting it to anybody.
No, I'm not. I am an owner of a travel agency here and have been in the industry since 1967. Our travel agency is the only travel agency that is listed with NDOT for the state of Nevada as a woman-owned minority travel agency. I also co-own Papa John Taylor Productions with my son. We furnish all the big equipment for the movies, for commercials, for photo shoots, for whatever they're going to film here in Las Vegas, as well as the western half of the United States. We've been in that industry since 1994. We often get asked by production companies coming from Germany, from Italy, from wherever, and even from LA, they want their producers, their executive producers, their top stars, they want to be in a home. They don't want to spend 20 hours on a movie set all day and then have to run through a casino lobby with somebody chasing after them. I want your autograph, I want your autograph. So we furnish them houses to physically live in. We also find houses for them to do photo shoots, and we may take one truck with the grip and electric equipment and a motorhome that will do hair, makeup, and wardrobe and go to a house and do a photo shoot where everything is in a private house. The way the current bill is written, the private owner cannot rent us or the production company a house for one day to go do a photo shoot. It's a misdemeanor for them to do that. The first week after the bill went in on 11/7, we lost 5 major jobs, which would have totaled about $5 million to the state of Nevada because of that, because we had foreign production companies coming in to do their catalogs, etc.
How much advance notice do you have of these kinds of clients?
Maybe 3 days. I mean, it's not like we can run down to Patty Moyer and say, hey, we need a permit. We don't need a film permit to do a photo shoot in a private home. However, now we can't do that. We have 52 homes on hold today for the Miss America pageant that starts tomorrow to do photo shoots, that we can't give them those homes because we're breaking the law. And I won't put them in those homes.
I don't understand. If we're suspending the first ordinance.
But I can't do it until the first ordinance is suspended tomorrow.
Well, that'll be tomorrow.
Right.
It's tomorrow, and you should.
I understand, but I'm not going to knowingly break the law to do that. And I had no idea until Cheryl called me that the county and Henderson had these laws, because we've been doing this since 1994. I had no clue. Charlie Giacaris, the head of the Nevada Film Office, was at our meeting today with Councilman Ross and you, and he had no idea that it was happening. He says, had I known, I would have been there. He says, we have no idea.
It ought to show you how good the city is, however, in being as public as we can about everything, because evidently the Henderson and the county ordinances, which were passed and have been in existence for some time, you told me that you didn't even know they existed.
No.
Done in a closet.
It was done in a closet. And in fact, the day that you did this on 11/7, I sat there that morning and said, I need to go to city council. You know how many times I'm at city council. I said, I need to go to city council today. I'm sitting there watching it on Channel 2, and the minute it was read, I'm calling city council, the 229-6504, and going, I need to talk to Councilman Tarkanian. No, she can't do this. No, I don't have time to drive down there. I'm going to get a speeding ticket. I mean, I was on the phone trying to reach anybody in your
You were in
office.
council meeting.
I know.
at that time. You know, we should also credit the media, because the media did put it in, and I don't know if it was put in for the others. I wasn't on the council at the time. But
But I had no idea that we had been breaking the law all this time.
Well, if you're in Henderson County with any of your work, you still are.
Well, and that's
But
where we're
gonna
going
work on
next.
it. It's what Councilman Wilson said. He said, just because they have it that way doesn't mean it's the best way.
Right.
So we're going to work on it, and we're going to try and do it
You
the best
remember
way
I said
possible.
that,
Of course, I remember all you said.
And before you walked in, when we were meeting with Councilman Ross, we put that out there, and we'd like you to know as well, that our plan is that once we work with you and we hone this down and we get this ordinance, we're gonna go to Henderson as a group, and we're going to go to county and the state or whatever we need to do to pull everybody in line.
Okay, well, let's move forward with the city first.
Right.
City of Las Vegas.
The city
Okay.
is first.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you. Bob.
Second for 4 months.
Thank you.
So I guess we need a motion.
Yes, we do need a motion.
My motion is to do what Brad Jervik said I should do. My motion is to,
I'll
You're gonna do it?
suggest something if you'd
Okay, go
like. What we would do is take this bill, remove sections 1 through 3, and replace it with a section 1 that says the enforcement of ordinance number 5943 adopted on November 7th, 2007 is suspended until March 5th. We'd do a
2008.
2008. I would need to replace the summary and the title, which of course would change. They would say the same thing.
for tomorrow.
First Amendment, yeah.
Okay, that is my motion.
Yeah, it's a do-pass motion, and all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The motion passes. So we'll be on the agenda tomorrow as was read here. This last item is citizens' participation. Does anyone wish to be heard on anything else on this agenda or anything?
Are you seeing another item? No, we don't have.
No, this is just the general citizens' participation.
Yeah.
This is a general, right.
We thank you for your time.
You're
Well,
very,
thank you very
welcome.
much, thank you.
Then the meeting is adjourned.